Hello there, I'm Ken Reed, president of North Sales, and your host for North Sales' new podcast series, Loft 57, featuring the very smart people behind the scenes who help create the products that we build and that you use. I've said and heard many times in the past that all great technology companies, and we consider North Sales a technology company, start with smart people having big ideas. Within this company, we have a talent pool of designers and engineers that is 60 strong. Just consider that for a minute, trying to herd the best and brightest and sort through what each individually and as a group considered to be the next big thing. In today's episode, we're going to take a step further to learn more about the designer lineup. Spanning all four corners of the globe, the North Sales design team is a structured and technically savvy group who have the tools and the materials at their disposal to cater to any sale and any application. So how is this design herd organized? Well, to explain more about the importance and utilization of a deep bench of experts, we have the Global Director of Design and Engineering, JB Braun, and European Design Manager, Dave Lenz, with us here today. Both JB and Dave are essential parts of the North Sales team. They come from different backgrounds. Nonetheless, their approach to design growth and teamwork betters North Sales as a whole every day. JB and Dave, first of all, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Kenny.
Yeah, thank you, Kenny.
Well, I know that being behind the mic isn't exactly a spot that most engineers relish. And to make matters worse, I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourselves, your education, your careers. How'd you end up in the position you're in? JB, let's start with you.
Okay. Thanks, Kenny. As I said, thanks for having us. A little bit about myself. Grew up in Marblehead, Mass, and got my start into sailing with my dad. My dad introduced me to sailing. And for some reason, I instantly fell in love with it. It was something that I guess I was meant to do because I was a fairly competitive sailor. And for some reason, I had a knack for making boats go fast. Don't know what it was. It was probably my love for it and my view of trying to understand how to make boats go. If I go forward, I got my engineering degree at Northeastern University. I continued my competitive sailing with my goals of trying to represent the U.S. in the Olympics in the Flying Dutchman class. I sailed a lot of dinghies, high performance dinghies, but I also needed a job. At that time, there wasn't really professional sailing. So I liked designing and creating things. So I got involved with the sailmaking industry. And I worked with a professor at MIT, Derek Rowell, and we wrote some of the first 3D software for the sailmaking industry, where we would take three-dimensional shapes, break them into 2D pieces, plot them on plotters, or eventually cut them out on laser cutters. And that sort of got my interest in sail design and in applying it to helping boats perform better. If I fast forward a little bit to where I got associated with North Sales, it was during the 2000 America's Cup where I was working with Young America, and Steve Calder introduced me to North Sales and brought me in, and we were like brothers because we looked at sail design and the opportunity and the aerodynamics the same way. And from that point, I've been involved in the last 7 America's Cups. Fortunate enough to have been on the winning team with Oracle and now trying to help Ineos with the next cup in 2 years. That's kind of a nutshell of my career.
Perfect. Dave, give us a little background on your development and career.
Yeah, Kenny. So I think, enough, I probably started in a similar way to JB, family cruising in sort of Cornwall, West Country, the UK. So, proper God's country. And, a very young age, age two, I think. Older brother started Optimus racing, and I sort of followed him into that. Found it was something I could actually beat my brother at fairly quickly, which was good.
Beating your brother is the most fun thing that brothers do.
Exactly. So I found that was something I had a bit of a knack for. So carried on with the off-piste sailing. Had eventually of my generation, my sort of peers, a bunch of really good sailors, did a few world championships, into the sport in a good way. And I sort of went to university in the UK and, carried on sailing all the way through there. After university, did some 49er sailing and, needed a way of paying the bills a bit, and always had interest in sales and trying to develop sales. So I ended up working for a few sailmakers and doing jobs, so summer type jobs and other jobs. And that sort of led to a bit more of a long-term sailmaker for, a couple of other sailmakers in the UK. And then eventually North Sales came knocking on the door, jumped at the opportunity. That's sort of just over 15 years ago now. And, so since then had the sort of pleasure of working with many, many very good people in this company. And ended up today sort of running a fantastic team of designers.
It's pretty clear that for so many people that we talk to, that growing up cruising with your parents is really a common denominator. And it sounds like it is for you two guys as well. That's fantastic. Let's get into some a little more specific questions. JB, let's start with you. We've always had the philosophy at North Sales to get the best people and commit to making the best product. Can you describe how we uphold this philosophy in today's global environment?
I believe it's almost like a circle where if you're committed to making the best product and you're committed to providing the tools and the expertise to help a company or people create that, it attracts the best and the brightest. So and then that in turn makes the tools and the whole process better.
When a new designer comes into the fold, I know they have a thorough initiation with the veterans and the software and fully get up to speed in a way that's kind of a normal process for most companies. But let's reverse this. What do the veterans learn from the new blood coming into the company?
Yeah, well, as a veteran sales designer, you've experienced a lot and you've done a lot of different projects. The exciting part about our industry is it continues to change. Every year that goes by, we're entering new phases of sales designs. And if you just look at the last, not even a decade, but you look at if you look 10 years ago to where we are today, we've entered a whole new phase of aerodynamics where we were the pioneers at North Sales of integrating the sails and the mast together. Because before that, the mast was the mast and you put sails on it and you went out. We integrated that, hey, the mast and the sails have to work together to be optimum. But today, we're taking that the next step beyond that, where the mast and the sails need to integrate with the hull, because the hull and the presence of the hull has a big influence on the power that the boats see. So as you bring new people in, all of a sudden, it is almost second nature for a lot of people to think that the hull is integrated with the sail plan, the end plating. You look at the moths with the deck sweepers. It's like that's second nature. Oh, isn't that normal? Isn't that how we do everything?
Yeah.
And we're like, well, wait a second. Is that? Oh, yeah, it should be because it's better. It's more efficient. And then you start that whole design process. How can the aerodynamics of the sails change because they're integrated with the hull, and vice versa? And all of a sudden it opens up your eyes to say, well, there's something new to understand and to take a look at. So bringing new people in, new ideas that come at it from a different approach than maybe our veteran designers. But there's a trade-off there because the guys our guys are smart. They're good at design. They've seen a lot. So there's a lot of experience that when you commingle it together, it creates something special.
So JB, let's take a quick step back. You and Dave both came from sailing backgrounds, as you both just described. Do you have to be a sailor to design sails?
No. Do you have to be a sailor to design sails? No, absolutely not. Does it help? Absolutely. Absolutely helps. I think fundamentally, you don't have to be a great sailor or a great sailboat racer, but you do want to understand the physics, aerodynamics, force and moments, think three-dimensionally, solve problems. Those are great skills that a sail designer would have and enjoy pursuing. And also understanding what you don't know, because, we don't know a lot. The beauty of the sail design is to make a boat go faster. There's lots of different ways to accomplish it. And it's all about the trade-offs.
As you're talking through that, a good example of maybe not being a sailor is Burns Fallow, the current sail design coordinator for Emirates Team New Zealand, just won the last America's Cup. I'm probably doing Burns a disservice by saying this. I'm not sure if we pushed him off the dock on a laser, he could get back. Now that's probably an exaggeration, but I don't think he considers himself a sailor. But man, is he a sail designer?
Yeah, he for sure a great talent, and he does pride himself on saying that he doesn't really sail. But I think there's maybe a slight bit of truth there. But
how did we end up with 60 designers? Why 60? Why so many? Give us a little breakdown and why spread out?
60 designers does seem like a ton, but when you look at it and you break it down, it's not. It's not a lot, because our design team of 60, which I say isn't a lot, I would like to see it bigger, because they're not just designing the sails. They're part of the process of understanding what the customers need. And our customers will range from helping yacht designers and customers understand what products are available, what options are there, and then how to satisfy and best achieve their goals. And our design staff will help in that process. So they're not just sitting there, taking an order and designing a sail. They're an integral part of providing the customers with what they want and making something special for them. You mentioned that the global pandemic and how that's changed our design approach is that as designers, we're trying to bring all of our designers around the world into a community that communicates and becomes one. And so we're learning from each other. And that really makes the design team powerful and special, because you live in a certain area and you develop, your community of sail design and sailors. And if you can expand that to get more input and more problem-solving skills or solving different problems, you can learn and maybe take something that Burns or Mickey or someone did in New Zealand and transfer it up to North America, or what happens in Europe and transfer it to North America, or vice versa. And the more that we get the communication going, the better. And the pandemic actually, in my view, has helped us communicate in a different way that I think has been better for us as a company. We started running virtual design meetings. It's interesting how the guys will communicate and start developing a new process, because that's what they love to do. They love having a problem and then solving it. And, the pandemic was one where the design team, I think, came together as a group and is prospering better than they ever have in the past.
So that's a great segue into this next question. As a manager, unfortunately, a part of our everyday lives is managing obstacles as well as opportunity. Just tell us a little bit about your management style and how do you deal with that? Because as we all know, it's easy to get caught up in the obstacles, and before you know it, it's taken up your whole life.
Yeah. I mean, my philosophy is the obstacles are always there. They're always present, and they're not really obstacles, but they're opportunities. And as a team, we want to instill that mentality with our group to make these obstacles opportunities. And if we can convert that mindset to think that way and get the group to work together, we're all better off at solving problems and developing something special.
Why is the 3DI process, our process, so appealing to a smart design mind? And how does Helix fit into this new 3DI process?
Well, 3DI is an amazing product. It's mind-boggling to think about it, like how did it develop? Because when you look back at sailmaking, we started making sails, and Kenny, you and I started making sails with Dacron, where we had a woven material. We had polyester, we had a fill, which is the number of yarns in each direction. Those were interlocked, and we used to interlock those fibers with resin, and that stabilized the material. And then the advent of Mylar came along, and it's like, oh, we don't have to weave these materials together and lock them in with resin. We can just stick plastic on it and glue it together. And all of a sudden, the sails started to be lighter, and they started to serve a different purpose, where the Mylar was there just to stop the wind from blowing through, add some stability of shear strength, to keep the fibers aligned. But that came with a huge cost, and the cost was durability. The Mylar was there, the plastic that we glued together to hold the yarns had to be glued. That glue would delaminate. The Mylar was affected by UV. It would crack, and the sails would age. And as that cracking would happen, the shape would change. We got away from woven into the Mylar. And during that time, for decades, we're all like, what if we could get rid of the Mylar in a sail? How could we do that? The sails would be unbelievable. They would be fantastic. And then came along 3DI. So 3DI is a composite. So we take the yarns that have been used to make sails, we break those yarns down to filaments, impregnate them with adhesives, and then thermal form them into a three-dimensional shape. And the angle of those yarns or the filaments creates the composite structure that is a 3DI sail. I believe we're only at the beginning of applying the 3DI structure to sail designs to make them even better than they are today. So there's a great opportunity. So how does that attract the smart minds? I mean, I think the smarter the guys are and the more understanding we have of material science and aerodynamics, the more opportunity we see. We're just starting to understand, when you talk about Poisson's ratio and the shear strength of materials, and none of these engineering terms have been defined in sail design and sailmaking. And with 3DI, we're getting into the process of being able to identify these details and understand how you can use them to your advantage in a sail design sense.
Dave Lenz, let's take a little different tack here for your questions. And let's make a broad assessment that we make two types of sails, racing sails and cruising sails. I know there's a ton of crossover with regards to design, but for the sake of this question, let's keep it on the simple side. How does one grouping of sails affect the other? How do cruising sails affect racing sails and vice versa?
I think that basically a fundamental goal is that we're still trying to make the best sail we can. Now, the use or the expectations at the end are slightly different to what the client is trying to do. It's clearly, different from cruising around the world or cruising locally to Grand Prix racing. It's obviously a different use, but I think we still have the same. We need the correct shapes. We need to obviously have the sail structured in the right way. The detailing, it needs to fit the boat appropriately, fit the brief. So I think that's across the board. That's a sail. So I think that is a key part of that. We need to understand what we're trying to achieve at the end. And then we use the same tools to achieve that. We have a great set of tools at our hands that's used, whether it's a cruising sail or a racing sail. And we're able to analyze the sails in the same way, look at what's going on beneath the surface and really understand what's going on. That obviously then leads to a good cross-pollination between the cruising sail might be used for many, many years. And we'll learn some things about the structure, the materials in there that we might not use in a racing sail that might do a certain number of regattas and then be replaced by a faster sail. So we learn in both ways. And then obviously racing's pushing the edge, pushing the boundaries. So there's a lot of development that we will learn from there, how to model that we can then use in the cruising world. So that's very much a strong link between the two areas.
Let's just talk about the materials used in the different segments and how you guys pick from that menu in order to make the best sail for the person who's looking for the type of sailing that they want to do.
We are considering trade-offs a lot as design, and materials have trade-offs, have carbon, super high modulus, low stretch, can be more brittle, down to polyesters that can be much better with handling, less brittle or Dyneema. And therefore, the expectation of the client, what we're trying to achieve, drives the materials, fundamental materials we can use. And then there's obviously also a basis of where we may choose to put the different materials in the sail for different reasons. In racing sails, it might be controlled stretch. Cruising, it might be, to limit the fatigue caused by flogging. So where the sail is going to be used, all the expectations really will lead us to make better decisions on our trade-offs that we've got to make.
Explain to everybody out there, how do you choose what a designer works on? And for example, racing, let's just call it racing cruising, performance cruising. Are there different segments of designers for each of the segments of sails?
Yeah, I think absolutely. One of the beauties of our size, when you talk about having 60 designers in the group, is that we're actually able to specialize, and therefore that we can really dive into the details of what makes a great cruising sail, what makes a really good offshore Mocha 60 sail trying to win the Vendée. And that enables us to basically have designers who are really focused on some particular areas. And it might be, for example, a cruising sail, could be a lot about the handling, could be a very key part of it. Boom furling, mainsail, having a smooth furl, batten positions, understanding the luff curves of ramps, mast bends. So that's a definite thing that we are able to use within the team. And so that's due to the size that we really can specialize, and we do based around sail type, segment, application use, local conditions, all those sort of things come into play with how we would sort of allocate work around the design group.
So let's then take that one step further. Like JB called it, let's go to the tip of the sword here for a minute. And at the high end, the very Grand Prix programs, how do we choose a specific design coordinator to really analyze that whole package, that whole aerodynamic and, as JB mentioned, hydrodynamic package and come up with a plan for any given boat?
So I think obviously we have designers who are very specialist in sort of the high-end aerodynamics or working with the hydro. So that we'd obviously be looking to get one of the team that we know involved into that. And then obviously there's a lot of work with the teams, the trimmers, which people they actually know, how do we build relationships and work with those guys in a structured way and a way that we will get to a good result.
And once a service and design, sales, service, design coordinators are in place for that given project, just explain, are they on their own? How does this design collaboration happen internally?
So we're a strong team. So you have a designer, generally you would see it as a lead designer, and then there's a huge amount of resource that they can pull in on either similar projects, designers who have worked on similar projects, ideas, using basically the team is there to communicate. And there's lots of day-to-day discussions amongst designers picking up the phone or whatever it is, WhatsApp, Skype to other guys to go, what have we got? What's the situation have we seen here with this modeling? Have we seen this layout? This concept has worked, kind of sharing the knowledge across the group. So ultimately, you need someone to lead the project, but they're absolutely not on their own.
Speaking of collaboration, at year end, or it sounds like maybe it's even happening more often, we have full-on design debriefs. Can you talk about the energy, the power, the collaboration in the room of these design debriefs? I've been there a couple times, and I just remember leaving the room thinking, man, I wish I studied harder in school because I understood about every 3 words that was said.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we did used to obviously have face-to-face meetings, and I do think that's the thing that we've actually moved on from. It happens a lot more regularly than an annual debrief. There's a constant sort of communication amongst different groups. And actually, back to the question earlier about segments and specialities, it's led more around that now, I would say, in terms of let's get the guys who are working on a certain product or project get together quite regularly and push it forward. So it is very rewarding, I think, when we can create new ideas, push them forward, see them. One of the things that always appealed to me is seeing the results of our work. You get to see it on a boat after spending 6 months or something in the winter working on something, and then we get to the spring and you get to see it in real life. That's unique, I think, for what we get to do, and it's great. And I think the beauty of the design team is there's so much passion, and I think a lot of our backgrounds are very similar. A high level of very keen sailors, engineers, and therefore we do talk a probably unique language, but a language that we all tend to understand with each other. And I think that does lead to, like I say, you talk about energy, a great enthusiasm for what we actually do. It's rewarding, and it's I find it, it's a lot of fun for people.
Dave, final question from me, and that it's really almost a management question as I gave to JB, but a little different. What's the most interesting problem clients ever brought to you?
Oh, it's a tricky one, Kenny. I guess probably has to be honestly, that's probably the toughest client, which is my wife, where I sell a dinghy with her, and she wanted a more stable spinnaker, faster spinnaker. So that's got to be probably the hardest one to satisfy.
Oh, that's very good. Okay. There's a lot of us that can relate to that. Got it. We've run down a whole number of questions for you individually, but I want to bring one final question, same question to both of you. And that's similar to what we did in our first podcast. And what's the next big thing, JB? You said that you're working with Ineos a little bit. So this America's Cup generation is bringing lots of new stuff that the world has never seen in the sport of sailing. But what do you think the next big thing is?
We can continue to develop our systems to be cutting edge, to empower our people to be better than they think they are, that we know that they're better, and to promote that. We're going to come up with the next big thing. And I don't know where it's going to come from, but I know we're going to be able to enhance it and bring it to life. So that's kind of so I don't really have an answer for that, but I have a way that helps us prepare for it and actually embrace it when it's there.
So in a way, we don't know what we don't know yet.
There's lots of opportunity there, and it's exciting to be part of it. And it's exciting to work with the group of people that we have and have that as a challenge and have that as a goal. Who would have thought we could have come up with 3DI when we were all making string sails, thinking that that was the best, that we had to live with, plastic and Mylar in a sail.
Dave, same question. What's the next big thing?
Yeah, I think I fully agree with JB that it's very hard to so much going on in different areas. Actually, what the really next big thing will be. I can certainly say, I think, from my view, the current big thing is sort of, as JB touched on, the evolution with 3DI and the fact that we're probably scratching the surface with where we can go with the structures and what that will mean for versatility in sales, adaptability. And I think that's very, very exciting. We're on the cusp of something that I think is very, very exciting. That's one area I think that we will see in the immediate future, significant changes.
These helix structures are really kind of making you scratch your head sometimes, aren't they, with regards to what can be done with them and what the future holds for them?
Yeah, and I think exactly. So I think that could lead to whether the number of sails on board the boats we start to see dropping radically. And actually, interesting enough, I was over Christmas, saw a little video from the Whitbread back in the late 90s. And I think one of the sail coordinators that was interviewing, who was moaning about only having 17 sails for a leg. And I look back and, the Vendée these days is, I think 8 sails for the entire race. So, that's already moved a long way, and it could be moving that direction more. And
Kenny, the other thing, I'm just looking at a picture on the wall here, and it's of AC-72 and the AC-45s that were used almost a decade ago now. I'm looking at the aerodynamics of those boats, and at the time I thought they were extremely aerodynamic and how efficient they were. And now I look at it and I'm like, oh my goodness, what a mess. And if you compare it to the AC-75s and what's going on today, how the focus has shifted to aerodynamics, making the boats cleaner, making them more efficient. The next big thing, there's got to be something along those lines that come in. And I'm not sure I'm the guy to do it, but I appreciate it. When I look at it, I'm just looking at this boat. I'm like, what a mess. Look at all that stuff that's on there.
JV, that was your boat.
I know. And we thought it was so cool. Look at what we did. And now you look at what's been created today. And the boats are, they look like spaceships. And I got to believe that efficiency and they're more enjoyable to sail as a result because they perform better. And those types of things can find its way to everyday sailing.
Each and every time we speak with a client about their own specific needs, the goal is to exceed expectations when it comes to having fun on sailboats, no matter what your version of having fun is. Heeling less, going faster, sails that last longer, ease of handling. North Sails has set up a company to listen and react with a scientific methodology and a human component to react to the wants and needs of every one of our clients. Whatever you want to do on the water, we can help you smile, either holding a trophy or holding a beer on that remote destination that you've always wanted to discover. We can get you there safely, quickly, easily, especially thanks to people like Dave Lenz and JB Braun. Dave and JB, we thank you not just for your time today, but for your drive and direction with the most robust group of smart people in the marine industry and maybe in the entire world of material science. So thank you. Thank you for your help. Join us here next time for another deep dive into the designers and the tools here at North Sails, all seeking the creation of the perfect sail. I'm Ken Reed, president of North Sails. Thanks for listening, as I hope this was interesting and educational. Sail fast and talk soon.